Hello, ladies. Okay, so we're in John chapter 11, which in the past year, John chapter 11 has been a tremendous blessing, and God has used it in many different ways to speak to me on a heart level. And I was really excited to be able to share some of that with you guys, and I'm excited to see what parts of that God is going to decide to bring out in this study. As y'all know, I do read the chapters, I study them, I seek the Lord on them, but I usually shoot from the hip. I don't take a lot of notes unless I'm doing something for my own personal studies, and I have a lot of notes from my own personal studies on this particular chapter. As a lot of y'all know, I've went through a lot of grief myself in the past couple of years, and a lot of loss, a lot of changes, and I love this chapter because it's talking about the death of Lazarus. It talks about grief, it talks about loss, and it shows Mary and Martha and how they approached Jesus in this moment and his reaction. It's very powerful, and let's just jump into it and we'll talk some more about it. So now a certain man was sick, Lazarus of Bethany, the town of Mary and her sister Martha. It was that Mary who anointed the Lord with fragrant oil and wiped his feet with her hair, whose brother Lazarus was sick. Therefore the sisters sent to him, saying, Lord, behold, he whom you love is sick. When Jesus heard that, he said, This sickness is not unto death, but for the glory of God, that the Son of God may be glorified through it. Now Jesus loved Martha and her sister and Lazarus, so when he heard that he was sick, he stayed 2 more days in the place where he was. Then after this, he said to the disciples, Let us go to Judea again. The disciples said to him, Rabbi, lately the Jews sought to stone you, and you are going there again. Jesus answered, Are there not 12 hours in the day? If anyone walks in the day, he does not stumble because he sees the light of the world. But if one walks in the night, he stumbles because the light is not with him. These things he said, and after that he said to them, Our friend Lazarus sleeps, but I go that I may wake him up. Then his disciples said, Lord, if he sleeps, he will get well. However, Jesus spoke of his death, but they thought that he was speaking about him taking rest and sleep. Then Jesus said to them plainly, Lazarus is dead, and I am glad for your sakes that I was not there, that you may believe. Nevertheless, let us go to him. Then Thomas, who is called the twin, said to his fellow disciples, Let us also go, that we may die with him. Verse 17. So when Jesus came, he found that he had already been in the tomb 4 days. Now Bethany was near Jerusalem, about 2 miles away, and many of the Jews had joined the women around Martha and Mary to comfort them concerning their brother. Now Martha, I have a sticky note. As soon as she heard that Jesus was coming, went and met him, but Mary was sitting in the house. Now Martha said to Jesus, Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. But even now I know that whatever you ask of God, God will give you. Jesus said to her, Your brother will rise again. Martha said to him, I know that he will rise again in the resurrection at the last day. Jesus said to her, I am the resurrection and the life. He who believes in me, though he may die, he shall live. And whoever lives and believes in me shall never die. Do you believe this? She said to him, Yes, Lord, I believe. You are the Christ, the Son of God, who has come into the world. And when she said these things, she went her way and secretly called Mary, her sister, saying, The teacher is come and is calling for you. As soon as she heard that, she rose quickly and came to him. Now Jesus had not yet come into the town, but was in the place where Martha had met him. Then the Jews who were there with her in the house and comforting her, when they saw that Mary rose up quickly, they went out following her, saying, She's going to the tomb to weep there. Then when Mary came to where Jesus was and saw him, she fell down at his feet, saying to him, Lord, if you had been there, my brother would not have died. Therefore, when Jesus saw her weeping, and the Jews who came there weeping, he groaned in the spirit and was troubled. And he said, Where have you laid him? They said to him, Lord, come and see. Jesus wept. Then the Jews said, See how he loved him. And some of them said, Could not this man who opened the eyes of the blind also have kept this man from dying? Then Jesus, again groaning in himself, came to the tomb. It was a cave, and a stone lay against it. And Jesus said, Take away the stone. Martha, the sister of him who was dead, said to him, Lord, by this time there is a stench, for he's been dead 4 days. Jesus said to her, Did I not say to you that if you would believe, you would see the glory of God? Then they took away the stone from the place where the dead man was laying, and Jesus lifted up his eyes and said, Father, I thank you that you have heard me, and I know that you always hear me, but because of the people who are standing by, I said this, that they may believe that you sent me. Now when he had said these things, he cried with a loud voice, Lazarus, come forth. And he who had died came out bound, hand and foot, with grave clothes, and his face was wrapped with cloth. Jesus said to him, Loose him and let him go. Then many of the Jews who had come to Mary and had seen the things Jesus did believed in him, but some of them went away to the Pharisees and told them the things that Jesus did. Then the chief priests and the Pharisees gathered a council and said, What shall we do? For this man works many signs. If we let him alone like this, everyone will believe in him. And the Romans will come and take away both our place and our nation. And one of them, Caiaphas, being high priest that year, said to them, You know nothing at all, nor do you consider that it is expedient for us that one man should die for the people, and not that the whole nation should perish. Now this he did not say on his own authority, but being high priest that year, he prophesied that Jesus would die for the nation. And not for that nation only, but also that he would gather together in one the children of God who were scattered abroad. Then from that day on they plotted to put him to death. Therefore Jesus no longer walked openly among the Jews, but went from there into the country near the wilderness to a city called Ephraim, where there remained with disciples. And the Passover of the Jews was near, and many went from the country up to Jerusalem before Passover to purify themselves. Then they sought Jesus and spoke among themselves as they stood in the temple, What do you think, that he will not come to the feast? Now both the chief priests and the Pharisees had given a command that if anyone knew where he was, he should report it, that they might seize him. So let's talk about it. So one of the reasons that I like this chapter so much is because, like I said, I was walking through a very difficult time of loss and grief. And I think it's important that we understand that in this chapter, we don't see often how Jesus approaches, or we can apply Jesus's approach to grief and loss. But we see here that he was grieved by the loss of Lazarus to the point that he actually wept. But what moved Jesus the most probably was whenever he saw Mary's condition, because it says, Therefore when Jesus saw her weeping, and the Jews who came with her weeping, he groaned in the spirit. So that's like a deep, like this is just, it was heavy, like a heavy sorrow. And he was troubled. And he said, Where have you laid him? And so he was moved by her anguish and by her sorrow. And I think it almost gives us an insight into the heart of our Savior, because when we're in such a deep state of hurt and anguish, and we're just heavy with burden and we're troubled, I felt so much comfort in knowing that Christ was moved by loss and grief, and that with me praying and me crying out to him, he was able to handle that weight, and he understood it. And he wept too. He understood what it was to lose someone really close to him. And he understood what it meant to be heavy with sorrow. And he understood what it was to be surrounded in a situation where those that he loved were heavy and there weren't really words to comfort. And sometimes that in loss, sometimes things are for the glory of God. And, we just have to trust that Jesus' presence is enough and that he will resurrect things in our lives that are important during those time periods. But I want y'all to focus on, I know that we're focusing on the characteristics of Jesus, and so I want y'all to understand that he is close to the brokenhearted, and that is very evident here. And in these chapters, he has power over life and death in this particular chapter. But I want y'all to take into account the behaviors of Mary and Martha. Mary was sitting, Martha was running. There's two characteristics, two different types of people here in a traumatic situation. I have been both, but more often than not, I am Martha. So Martha didn't even give Jesus time to show up. She was going to him, and the first thing she says is, basically, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. It's kind of, you think about Martha whenever she was cleaning the house. Martha gives off these, she can't sit still. She's got a lot of, real anxious vibes, like she's impatient. And she's not relaxed. And so it's kind of like, almost like an accusation, like she's offended in a way, like she's upset, she's angry. And you notice that the Lord, he's not bothered. He's not bothered by that. He says that your brother will rise again. He's calm. So even in her anxiety, even in her unrest, even in her impatience, even in her frustration, the Lord is calm, and he's able to handle those questions and that frustration with grace and with comfort. But I want you to notice that Mary, she did not come until Jesus calls her. She sat, sure, calm, confident, even in brokenness. There is such a lesson in that, because I know for me, when I'm hurt, I'm like running around and I'm like, Lord, where are you at? Where are you at? Lord, where are you at? Where are you at? Like, this just happened, and I'm anxious, and my prayers are rushed, and I'm just grasping for any kind of comfort that I can find, and I'm impatient, and I'm accusing, and I'm offended. A lot like Martha. And I really need to be like Mary, because it's like Mary knew he was coming. Like, she knew he was coming. But she was sitting there, and it was embracing the pain of the loss, but she knew that Jesus was coming. And so I look at the difference between Mary and Martha as Mary was abiding and Martha was striving. And so when the Bible talks about that, the difference between, we're supposed to abide in Christ. Striving is forcing yourself. Abiding is just, it's easy. It's letting him do the work and just surrendering. Striving is doing all the work, and you're not letting God do anything. That's the difference between those. And I think I want y'all to grab a hold of that, because in your relationship with Christ, I think the most important thing is that we learn to abide and not strive. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. Religion is checking off boxes. Relationship is not. Relationship is enjoying the presence of God, enjoying having a conversation with him, enjoying reading about who he is, soaking it in, The same is true for abiding and striving. Abiding in the Lord is enjoying just being in His presence. Striving is grasping for anything and everything you can get a hold of and missing His presence. Let's see. Striving is a Pharisee. Abiding is disciple. These are things that I think that we need to grab a hold of, because neither one of these things are bad things. But the heart posture is what changes them. And it's just a hairline difference. It's literally just the posture of your heart that changes one person to the next. And that changes you from being on the wide road to the narrow road. And that is the most dangerous thing. That is the biggest deception that the enemy has out there, because he would have you think you're doing all the right things and your heart posture is not right. You're not with God. You're doing all the right things, and yes, you believe in Jesus, and yes, you're in church on Sunday, but your heart is not with Him. It's far from Him. You're struggling, And so there has never been a time like now. There has never been a time like now that we need to make sure that our heart postures are right. There has never been a time like now that I feel like we need to take a self-evaluation and make sure that our heart is where it needs to be, because none of this matters. None of this matters if our heart is not truly with Christ. And we can be raised in Christianity and think we've got it, and we don't. We can be deceived because we're checking all the boxes off and our heart's not right. And it's a hairline difference. The Pharisees had all the knowledge and they missed Jesus. Please hear me when I say, I do not want you to have all the knowledge and miss Jesus. I want you to grab a hold of Jesus. If nothing else, if you've got Him, you've got all you need. And that's the most important thing, okay? So, this lesson for me, I feel like the most important thing I want you guys to grab a hold of tonight is that Jesus is the resurrection and the life. In this chapter, He has the power over life and death. He's close to the brokenhearted. But the message tonight I wanted you guys to grab a hold of is, I guess the question would be, are you abiding or are you striving? What is your heart posture? It's a serious question. Are you offended with God? Is there something that you have between you and the Lord? Are you surrendered to the Lord? Are you, have you given Him your life? And I mean, when I say given Him your life, I don't mean just on Sunday mornings. I mean your whole life. Your whole life. You've given it all to Him. Every ounce of it. You have surrendered it over to Him. You keep nothing for yourself. These are hard questions, and I think all of us need to do a self-evaluation, because, like I said, that we're just living in a time now that we don't need to be caught without oil in our lamp. So, but the questions tonight I want y'all to ask yourself before next week is, are you abiding or are you striving? What's your heart posture? Are you offended with God? And have you fully surrendered to the Lord? And you don't have to answer those in our chat. These are personal questions that I would suggest that you just search out with God and have some time with Him. If you feel like, you need to reach out to speak or need to talk to somebody, I'm always available. I know Misty's available, Jolen's available, Kim's available. Please feel free to reach out to any of us. We'll be more than glad to talk to you or pray with you or whatever you might need. And I love you guys. I hope y'all have a great weekend and be blessed.